Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. Happy belated Thanksgiving on behalf of all of us. I hope y'all are spending that with y'all's family and having a fantastic week. You'll notice it's a little bit different setup because we are all back in our hometowns, except for Ryan this break. I, Wesley Tolleson, join you from the Rose capital of the world, Tyler, Texas. Walker Lott joins us from Fort Worth. Ryan Schroeder joins us from the beautiful state of North Carolina. Walker, I'll turn to you first. How's the past week been, and what did you think about the tumultuous week of private school football?
Yeah, speaking of that, it's probably the most amount of upsets ever in private school football in a very long time. So shocking week. But week's been good, just working hard, getting stuff done, and now back home for Thanksgiving. So it's a good week right now.
Without a doubt, Ryan. I mean, you're not normally in North Carolina. What are you doing up there, and what did you think about the past week of private school football?
Yeah, I had to go visit some family out in North Carolina, so I'm here now. But like I said, like I'm in Oklahoma, like I'm anywhere else. Live streams are a thing, and live streams are how I get through things. So I watched a lot of good football last week, and I will tell you right now, I don't think I've ever seen that many upsets in private school football in a playoff ever, just ever.
Oh no, we will get to it later, but chaos doesn't even begin to describe what happened over this past week. But speaking of that kind of action, we will first, as always, go into recapping our last week's pick records. And good Lord, if this isn't a good indicator of how crazy the week was, I don't know what is. I, for the second week in a row, have topped the pick record at 11-5. I have clawed my way back into second at 130-49. I'm getting back there slowly. Ryan may not be a sure bet to win at this point. Speaking of Ryan, Ryan is now second. He went 9-7 last week and is now 135-44 overall. Walker went dead even at 8-8 and is 129-50 on the year. So yet again, to keep this concise, I will limit it to one sentence. Walker, I want a single sentence on your thoughts on last week's picks.
All upsets lost, and then all wins that I thought happened did not win.
It's fair enough. That sums it up well. Ryan, same to you. One sentence on your thoughts on the pick records.
I ended up doing better than I thought after the first games happened.
I love doing this. I love seeing everyone try to condense their thoughts down into a single sentence. It's beautiful to watch live. As always, we will transition into our players of the week. And the Texas Private School Podcast Offensive Player of the Week is Bishop Lynch running back Isaiah Schmidtke, who had 43 carries for 340 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 receptions for 33 more yards. I mean, guys, we've known that this kid has been a bell cow for Lynch all year, but he went for 43 carries in a single game, which I think is a stat almost in itself that you have to just look at in a vacuum. I mean, he led them to that 52-50 win over St. Thomas, and just he was an absolute workhorse in this game. Walker, what did you think about the Bishop Lynch running backs' just standout performance from the past week?
I mean, beating St. Thomas, you had to put the team on your back, and Isaiah did that and more. I mean, 43 carries is absolutely insane. Like the fact that he's able to, because that man must have been tired. He must have was on the verge of like cramping, but he still overcame all of that and won the game for them in overtime. And that's what you wanted as your star player. If your star player can't, do the things that he needs to do to put his team in successful situations, is not good enough. And this guy was not even close to that. He did everything he could for his team, put the team on his back, and hit them the game. And that's what you want in your star running back.
No, he is a fantastic player. And like you said, he did indeed put the team on his back. Ryan, Isaiah Schmidtke, 43 carries. And first of all, if we're not pronouncing his name wrong, please somebody stop me because I'm so scared I'm butchering this. But Ryan, I mean, he had a crazy game. Your thoughts on the Lynch running back's performance?
So yeah, he did great. He honestly, I mean, you see any guy that does that kind of stuff for 43 carries, you obviously knew that he's the one that ran the show for that team. I mean, I'm gonna let you know right now, Andrew Paul had a great week as well. And there's actually a lot of guys who star-studded out for their team, but it's kind of funny to see how many carries like one guy can get and how much he can basically run the show and how no one else basically, like was any factor in scoring on that team. So that's kind of how I see it in this scenario. I just think he went off for his team. And definitely when we talk about like putting your team on your back and fighting all the way through, that's him. He's the one that grabbed every single one of those linemen, every single one of those wide receivers, and put all them heavy people on him, and he carried them to the victory. So
No, without a doubt. I mean, he's a fantastic player. I saw him live like week 3 against St. Pius. He is as good as advertised. I can guarantee you that. Isaiah Schmidtke, Texas Private School Podcast, Offensive Player of the Week. And now we look at the Texas Private School Podcast Defensive Player of the Week, senior linebacker from Dallas Christian, Jackson Berry. The man had 15 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, a pass breakup, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery just for kicks and giggles, and a win over Fort Worth Christian to propel Dallas Christian to the Final Four in TAPS D2. I had the honor of covering Jackson Berry a few weeks ago when they played Grace. I mean, I knew immediately when I saw him, the kid was special. He's been doing this all year for Dallas Christian, and he is a player that will try to keep DC in the hunt for the state championship in D2. Walker, I mean, we've known about this kid for a little bit. Your thoughts on him having a monster game for DC in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I mean those linebackers of him and like those linebacker DBs kind of Max Mikata, Gabriel Grubbs, and then Jackson Berry is just deadly for any team to face. And this guy just kind of balled out. 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, fumble, and a fumble recovery, and just added on to that the other stats. It's just an insane night. And that means he did it throughout the night too. Like that's not like we could have absolutely gave it to Max Mikata, who had 2 interceptions and 1 pick 6, which kind of sealed the game at the very end. So you just saw how dominant this just defense is for Dallas Christian. And like you always say, I mean, most of the time they spend practicing defense over there. So, I mean, it works with the talented players they have. It works. And Jackson Berry was just another tool that just kind of went off this game. So shout out to him.
No, without a doubt. I mean, I've been saying too, Max Mikata and Gabriel Grubbs are both elite players. And the combination of those 3 on defense is a scary sight. But we're talking about Jackson Berry here. So, Ryan, your thoughts on the linebacker's crazy performance against Fort Worth Christian?
No, there's not a lot more to say than what we've already said. If you can put up a variety of stats, then you kind of win our hearts. 3 interceptions or a variety of stats. That's kind of how we pick players of the week, I guess. I mean, you got to have everything, or you got to have a lot of something. So it's kind of funny to say it that way, but that's kind of how it is.
No, Ryan, I hear your dogs barking. I think that they understand that we're talking about a dog as well in Jackson Berry. I think they're sensing one of their own kind that we're talking about.
Nice.
But I mean, yeah, I thought of that and I knew it'd be good to slide in there. But the Texas Private School Podcast Defensive Player of the Week, Jackson Berry, heck of a week from both him and Isaiah Schmidtke, just both very well deserving of the award. And now, as always, we will transition into the last week's matchups, something I'm not really sure I want to do considering how many of these I got wrong. But as always, we will start actually on one that we all got correct, which is Parish versus Prestonwood. Parish won 49-24. Andrew Paul, as he has been doing lately, goes absolutely ballistic here, rushing for 323 yards and 6 touchdowns on 24 carries. Blake Youngblood also had a great game receiving with 135 yards. I remember earlier in the season, I was talking about I was waiting when Youngblood was going to start having these breakout 100-yard games because it wasn't happening early. I basically theorized that he would when Sawyer Anderson began coming into his own as the season came on, and it really looks like that's happening now, and they have a great connection, and they're going to try to push Parish into the state title game. But on terms of defense, Keegan Addison had 22 total tackles, which is just a crazy number that you don't see very often. I mean, a testament to how good this Parish defense is. Dylan Davis also grabbed an interception. So Walker, Parish, business as usual. They defeat Prestonwood for the 2nd time this season. And unlike last time, we were not fooled. Your thoughts on Parish advancing to the semifinals?
Yeah, I want to quickly shout out that Parish offensive line. We talk about them every time, basically, when we talk about Parish. But the fact that they can just help Andrew Paul do this every single week, most of the time, is just crazy. I mean, they have, and it's all across the board. It's not like, some offensive lines, they have the star player and then you're kind of like the other four is not really good. No, across the board, they're solid offensive linemen. And, Andrew Paul just lets them do the work and he runs right behind them. And that's how it is. And seeing that offensive line and that run game be so successful, like I say all the time, allows that pressure off of Sawyer Anderson to let him do what he is. He's a great player, just young. So when you take the pressure off of him of having to put the whole game on his shoulders, he doesn't have to do that. And there you go. Blake Youngblood for 135 yards. When you allow him to play his game and play the superstar potential that Sawyer Anderson has, it's deadly for any team. And that's what happened this game.
No, without a doubt. And I want to shout that Parish offensive line out by name again, just because they're so good and such an integral part to this team. That's Elliot Desalomes at left tackle, Sam Liu at left guard, Hayden Weber at center, Aiden Gilmore at right guard, and Jacob Pequeño at right tackle. I mean, that unit is one of the better units in TAPS and is a huge reason why Andrew Paul's been able to have the success he has and why Sawyer Anderson has been so comfortable back in the pocket. So big shout out to the Parish offensive line. Ryan, your thoughts on Parish thumping Prestonwood yet again?
Yeah. So the first time these two teams played, obviously, was a long time ago, and it was when Prestonwood had a lot of guys hurt. Final score was 35-9, and obviously, Prestonwood did not think that was a true, representation of their performance and what they could do against Parish. This time around, Prestonwood, had all their dogs, had everything in their arsenal, and they still didn't, put out the, what they said they were going to do. So I rode your back all year, Prestonwood. I went against you this game, and I'm sorry if that was your downfall, but I honestly think Parish just came out a little bit stronger. So, and I don't think anyone was going to get in Parish's way to the championship. So it's not their fault, but heck of a year to Parish and all those guys there.
No, it's really funny how things change because I remember we were all in love with Prestonwood when the year started, mostly because of that big win against Coppell to start the season. But it's always interesting to see how dynamics shift and things like little things gradually change throughout the season to where Parish has emerged as far and away the title contender out of D1. But there is a small object in their way moving forward that we will cover when we get to it. First, we have to cover Southwest Christian versus Grapevine Faith last week. Southwest wins 28-22. We all got that right. I don't think any of us thought it would be this close. I think we all thought it would be a much wider score margin, but regardless, a win is a win is a win is a win. Southwest dominates this one on the ground, outrushing Faith 301-42. That's the main storyline here, really. Southwest has been doing this to everyone this season, especially with Antoine Polk behind center. He goes for 169 of those 301 yards with 2 touchdowns. Tyson Flowers was also very effective on the ground, picking up 79 yards of his own. Walker, it'd be a disgrace to go to anyone but you first. I mean, what are your thoughts on Antoine Polk and Tyson Flowers in the Southwest, just very dynamic rushing game? I mean, what did you think really set them apart outside from rushing in this game against Faith?
Yeah, the game was much more closer than I expected it to be. I think, Grapevine Faith gave it all, and it was just it was close to being an upset, big time upset, but they just couldn't do it. But I mean, the fact is that knowing Grapevine Faith, you would think they would pass the ball a lot. And like one of my friends was there at the game and she was like, it was like a first half, it was under an hour because they both ran the ball, which was shocking thinking about Grapevine Faith running the ball, but they have that 2024 running back who was a very solid back for the future. And so maybe they trusted him and kind of put SCS off their game a little bit. But, SCS has always been a second half team. They punch them in the mouth the first half and then they finally get tired and they keep punching them again. And that's how they win games. So that's how I saw when it was like 22-7, but to the point, it was literally, they scored Grapevine Faith didn't give up and they scored a touchdown on the last play of relegation, went for 2, got the game and went to overtime. And then they finally got stopped in that first thing of turnover on downs for that Eagles defense. So shout out to them. But then, SCS went down, scored, and won the game. But, you got to give credit to that Grapevine Faith team. Being hurt, being injured, and coming out resilient and coming out strong. So, shout out to them. They're still young. Chase Cross is a junior. You have him for another year. That's going to be deadly to see next year. But the mistakes that SES had, they need to fix for this week. They can't keep it close for DC. You can't, because one thing goes and DC is going to go off. So you got to play your game. You got to play it to the best of your potential. So Tyson Flowers and those guys have to get them in check and go into there. They can't keep a close game like they did against Faith. So we'll see how it goes. But shout out to the boys. Antoine Polk, I love him. You know how it is. I think he's a great player in that 23 class with Tanner Seaman. We'll see how it goes next week.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was funny. You said relegation instead of regulation, which made me remember how badly I want a relegation system in TAPS football. But that's a wormhole for another day. We'll cover that later. Ryan, I mean, Southwest barely escapes against Faith here, but it ends up getting it done. Your thoughts on the Eagles' performance?
Yeah, first time around in this district, Southwest Christian ran the table. And I'm going to tell you right now that Southwest Christian was going to run the table a second time. It just makes sense. Southwest Christian has been on top of this district. They have literally, gone through every single team, and they have showed no remorse, even my Legacy Christian Eagles. So, I had to pick them to win. They already beat Faith once this season, so it was very easy for me to pick them again. But yeah, Southwest Christian, Walker, you got a team rolling there. You got a nice old team rolling down in Fort Worth.
Hey, what I've been saying this since last year. I said it last year, and y'all were all like, "Oh, I don't know if they'll get back there next year." Look at their back; they're right back there like they were last year.
Well, listen, man, they already eliminated the toughest competition in D2 when they beat Gray's first round. So it's just kind of a cakewalk.
Yeah. Well, Legacy was like not even in, but like they didn't put them in this year because they were that good. So I don't know how that all worked out. I guess they're taking teams that, are too good this year and just leaving them out. I guess that's how it works.
I'm in so much pain. However, that is all we have on Southwest versus Faith. Now we transition to a game I actually had the honor of covering, which was Shiner St. Paul versus Brazos Christian. Sadly, a game we were all incorrect on, a game that me and Walker really couldn't pick against because, as we've mentioned many times, Brazos Christian is basically our child. St. Paul came out with the win 22-20. And I will go to my grave saying this, and both coaches will say it as well. It was an absolute crime this game was a semifinal matchup. I genuinely do think these are the two best teams in TAPS D4, and it made for an all-time matchup last Friday. And I'll just say this. If you're telling me you can't find talent in TAPS D4, you're straight up just lazy. Levi Hancock had a tremendous swan song. And if you haven't already done it, go back to our Twitter and look at this absolute cannon the man has attached to his shoulder. I mean, Jimbo honestly might want to design some packages where the long snapper throws it somehow, because this man has an absolute rocket. But what won the game ultimately for St. Paul was their rushing attack. Zach Johnson, the Division IV legend, had 38 carries, 3-8. That's ridiculous to me. That just the fact that Shiner is just such a run dominant offense, and a human being can even carry the ball 38 times in a game in modern football is mind-boggling to me. But he had 141 yards and a couple touchdowns to go with it as well. Noah Bodeker is also someone that impressed me. I mentioned him in our pregame last episode, or I had it in the script. He impressed me a lot for them, as he was extremely efficient as a receiver out of the backfield, catching the only 2 Cardinal passes of the night. But between Johnson and Bodeker, that was enough to get the job done. I mean, St. Paul just really played clock control. They ate the clock up with that running attack, and they ended up winning and advancing to the state semifinals. Walker, I mean, it breaks my heart to see Brazos go, but what are your thoughts on St. Paul advancing?
Yeah, seeing Levi Hancock grow over this year is just a sight to see, and I love it. Being a homer a little bit, we were one of the first people who were like, hey, there's this kid down there and Brad's Christian that could be something special. I mean, this kid, before anyone really knew about it, we knew about him before he became, the best. That was before even Coles was like, hey, we're putting him as the number 1 long snapper in the nation. We found out him before I'm calling it like, this is ours. Like, Levi Hancock was our dude. And I just was so impressed to see how he lived up to the potential he could. Yes, you know he's going to hurt because literally every interview we've ever said was, what's your mindset going into this year is state. That was his mindset. And he became 2 points short against a great team in Shiner St. Paul. But you have to tip of a cap to him because he did everything he could for this team, and he'll leave Brian Brazos Christian as one of the best to ever do it there. And that's what you want in a player. Honestly, like he's that gift. I know he's always a long snapper for A&M, but he's a gifted athlete enough. He could have played ball at any like a position he wanted to in the next level. So don't get it twisted just because he's wanting to play long snapper in the next level. He could have been an athlete dude anywhere. But on the other side, Shiner St. Paul rolling again and being the team they've always been. I mean, the dominant Division IV team and Zach Johnson and Noah Bodeker. I mean, when you run the ball between those two guys, more than probably 50 carries, this is disgusting. And when you can like kind of like SES is when you can run the ball efficiently and like dominantly, I mean, who are you going to stop? There's no one that can stop you. And that's what happened this game. So shout out to Shiner St. Paul. I probably expect him to be in the state championship in a couple of weeks. So,
oh, without a doubt, incredibly talented story program down there in Shiner. Ryan, what are your thoughts on St. Paul edging out a 2-point victory in the battle of the two best teams in Division IV?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the game plan against St. Paul is we're going to put all 35 guys on our roster in the box at all times on defense. Every single one of them you just put in the box. But no, jokingly I say that, but honestly, Zach Johnson and Noah Bodeker, that's a great game for them. I do wonder if someone's going to pick up on that though, and they will try to play more of a run defense and force them to throw the ball and basically kind of like, just make it so that you do put 9 guys in the box and that you have, you just or you put 8 guys in the box and you recover the receivers, like whatever you do, like. In my opinion, I don't know how you stop the St. Paul team without putting that many guys in the box. I don't know how you stop Zach Johnson without putting it in the box, right? But going back to, obviously our man, Levi Hancock, and the hometown guy, even though I'm not from what's called A&M.
You're an honorary resident.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He could change his position at A&M too. Like he could be a long snapper and then also do other stuff for them too. Like he is that gifted to be able to do a variety of things for them. So yeah, I know that's what he's going to be known for, but Walker's completely right. I could see him doing some special teams plays that could have a pass go out to him and stuff like that, or maybe getting that in the tight end position on offense or something like that, like or throwing the fake punt or what. Like there's so much stuff that I could see him doing just because of how gifted of an athlete he is.
No, I completely agree with you. Jimbo, if by some godforsaken chance you somehow stumble across this podcast, utilize the man. You have a tremendous athlete on your hands. However, that's all that we have for the TAPS D4 quarterfinal game. And now we transition into Division II, where we see Regents faced off against Second Baptist. In another game, which we all got incorrect and were very, very promptly reminded on Twitter, which I had a lot of fun with, honestly. I love when people interact with us. But Second Baptist etched out a 10-point win, 26-16. And all I have to say is, why couldn't y'all have done this last year? I picked y'all to upset Regents last year, and that the reason I didn't this year is because I got burned last year. So honestly, I stick by my pick. I just wish I could have done it last year when I actually picked y'all. But in all seriousness, I mean, Second Baptist stuns perennial state title contender Regents to move on to the state semis. I mean, Coach Pearl and Second Baptist did an elite job at clock control and essentially played keep away from Regents, who had their worst offensive performance of the season. So, Walker, I mean, we all got this one wrong. I mean, what do you think about Second Baptist stunning perennial state contenders Regents?
I mean, this has to be the first time Regents doesn't go to state in what, 4 or 5 years?
It has to be. I haven't looked, but it's definitely something like that.
Because last year and at least the 2 before that, maybe, at least 4 years, this is the first time they haven't been to state. So that's just one shocking. And it also talks about the success Austin Regents has had. I mean, they blew out everyone in that division or district down there in Austin, and they just couldn't get over the hump. So you want to also say, shout out to Second Baptist for finally doing it. But I want to also say Drew Dickey will now go down probably as one of the best in private school to ever do it. I mean, the success that he had last year and the amazing upset win over Dallas Christian, and finally doing it after so many over the time at Austin Regis just couldn't get over the hump of winning the state championship. He finally did it for them. So you just have to give them credit. So shout out to Drew Dickey and the rest of that team. It might be that just that team wasn't as good as they were in the past years. I mean, that team had a lot of dudes on that team, Josh Franklin, the lineman that went to Tech. I mean, they had a lot of athletes that went on and could have played collegiate ball, but maybe on this team, there isn't as many. I mean, you have Drew, you have Whipple Powell, you have Weston Benson, you have Will Stone, the kicker, who I believe even he missed the kick in that. But that's just shocking when your guy who number one kicker in the country type of player misses a kick in a game like that. That's just shocking. They just don't have the dudes to compete anymore, and maybe they're finally on the down slope. And that game next year is going to be very interesting to see if St. Michael's can finally beat Regents next year. Going to be interesting to see. But nonetheless, shout out Second Baptist. Great team. Coach Pirtle led them in the right direction. The athletes that they have there kind of finally stood up and was like, hey, this is our time now. And they're doing it. And now next week they get to get revenge on Fort Bend if they can. So we'll see how that goes.
No, 100%. Doing a little bit of research, if my findings are correct, this should be the first time since 2015 that Regents hasn't made the state championship. I mean, that run of dominance just has to be in itself acknowledged. I mean, a tremendous program has been built down there, regardless of them not making it this year. I mean, the fact to build a dynasty, and I'm saying what it is, it's a dynasty, to go to state that many consecutive years, you have to take your hats off even whenever it ends. So shout out Regents, an incredible run up to this point. Ryan, good Lord, I'm losing my mind. Your thoughts on Second Baptist knocking off the perennial contenders?
I think that is such a great job of clock control. I know you said that, but like there is no other way that Second Baptist wins this game if it isn't for their coaching tactics and what they went through. And honestly, the amount of times that Second Baptist has been close enough and they lose to that Regents team. I think it has just happened to them last year. And I don't know if it happened before that, but like they're realizing like we need to find a tactic that's going to work against this Regents team. And honestly, what if they've been concocting this strategy all the way back from last year when they lost? Like that kind of stuff, you might think about that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that's exactly what they do. I have no idea. So don't quote me on any of this, but literally they could have had this strategy just planned out how they wanted to, make sure Regents didn't get the ball at all. Like this is how we're going to do it this year. We have a new strategy coming into this game. We're not going to lose like we did last year. And honestly, I think that's just an outstanding performance from Second Baptist. And I'm excited to see if they can be undefeated Regents, a team that I literally said that was going to bulldoze anybody in their path, like down their path, which I regret that now. But, Second Baptist, man, like what heck of a win. And, that's stuff that Regents has never seen. They've never seen a loss. And some of those guys actually have never seen a loss in the semifinals for them or the quarterfinals for them. They've never seen that. If you think about it that way, never seen that.
No, it's an incredible program. And to your point, there is almost a certain chance, all right, chance that Coach Pirtle has been taking an entire year to implement a game plan to beat Regents. I mean, just knowing him, there is a very high possibility that happened. That's just kind of the kind of coach he is. It speaks to the program he's built down there in Houston. But that's all we have for that. And now we transition to St. Michael's versus Fort Bend Christian, another game I got to go cover. I have so much fun covering this Fort Bend team. Not to be punny because their whole thing now is so much fun, but I thoroughly enjoy getting to watch them. It's such a fun team to be around. But I expected they'd win this game, but good Lord, not by this much. They won 69-28, and there was a point that, the clock ended up running. Like, when was the last time you saw a clock running outside of the Cedar Hill days in the quarterfinals of a playoff? Probably not very often. But this Fort Bend team, that speaks to the electricity of their offense. In terms of their stats from the game, Samuel Blue had 16 carries for 215 yards and a couple touchdowns. Brady Dever went 18 of 25, 402 yards and 7 touchdowns passing, which at this point is just a day at the office for him. I mean, he has established himself as probably the best junior quarterback in TAPS in the state. And I mean, he just proves it day in and day out. Marcus Cretin had 6 catches for 150 yards and 4 touchdowns. Brian Domino had 5 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. Braylon Gardani had 3 catches for 90 yards, and Donovan Dixon had 4 grabs, 70 yards, and a touchdown. So just yet again, this Fort Bend receiving core, I think, with the addition of Dever making it an air raid attack, I think you can argue that it's the best unit in TAPS. I really do. I mean, they are just fantastic, and I will continue to say that. But in terms of St. Michael's, I mean, 3 guys that really impressed me were Joe Moreland, Carson Kruger, and Jack Esparza. Moreland and Esparza, the 2 receivers, are both fantastic. Walker, I actually texted Walker before the game. I was like, hey, give me some guys to watch for St. Michael because I haven't done as much research on them. He was like, he gave me a long list, but 3 of them were Moreland, Esparza, and Kruger. All 3 of them were fantastic. Joe Moreland, I think, is a guy that you said as well, Walker. He is a legitimate collegiate talent. I mean, he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's built pretty well. He's built for the jump ball and the vertical route. I mean, he is a fantastic player. Now, I love getting to see him live. And he's also a junior, so he's got even more time to grow. Jack Esparza was fantastic as well. He actually played in his last game last Saturday, but he went out with a bang. He's a great receiver as well. Carson Kruger is also a heck of a player at quarterback. He's a tough kid for St. Michael's, and it was a pleasure to watch all 3 of them. But I just spoke a lot. So, Walker, your thoughts on Fort Bend, specifically their offense, and just absolutely blitzing St. Michael's here in the quarters?
Yeah, Fort Bend is just pure electricity. Like, you never know what's going to happen. When it strikes fast. It just strikes hard. I mean, I wouldn't want to face him if I was a coach. I mean, that's just so hard to defend that offense. It's so difficult. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Fort Bend again does against Second Baptist this week. But yeah, St. Michael's is a good team, but they're a young team. Carson Kruger's a 23. Joe Moreland's a 23. Ja Griffin's a 23. Malachi Smith is a 23. Xander Romero is a 23. All those guys are young, talented players. So it'll be interesting to see how they do next year. Carson Kruger came over from Westlake because, he's behind Cade Klubnik over there. But I mean, come on, you can't tell me like a lot of those guys from Westlake, like Travis, maybe don't want to go if they're not starting, they're talented, want to go to a Regents or a St. Michael's. I mean, I would. So it'll be very interesting to see how these teams line up again next year. But Jack Esparza, one heck of a player, like you said, finished his last game, but he ended it out as strong as he could. I think he's a talented collegiate player. I think he could go somewhere if he really wanted to. We'll see how it ends up. But yeah.
No, certainly. Ryan, your thoughts on Fort Bend St. Michael's?
Yeah, I thought this game was going to be a lot closer than it was. I did not know Fort Bend Christian was going to win by that much. And I totally agree with you. I just think that Brady Dever is just going to be a star-studded for this team. They're going to play Second Baptist. Yeah, I'm telling you, Brady Dever will put up six touchdowns against them too. You can't tell me that he won't. You cannot tell me that he won't do that again. It's just normal for him. It's normal for him to put up those numbers, right? So that's how I see it. I think, and I'm not going to give away my pick yet, but gosh, Regents Fort Bend would have been a better game. Is what I think, in my opinion. And I know people are gonna hate me for that, but that's what I say. That's what I say. Regents Fort Bend would have been a better game, and we'll get to that later. But I think Fort Bend is just a great team this year.
No, 100%. That would have been an interesting game, but we'll see. I think Fort Bend Second Baptist is going to bring a bit of uniqueness in its own right, and I'll hit on that when we get to that game. But those were the 5 games that we previewed last week. There's 3 other games that we have to hit on, Walker, if you want to take it. I mean, these were just such good games. It's impossible to not mention.
Yeah, like we said last week, that regional round is probably the best of private school football we've had in a very long time. So we have to talk a little bit about it. That DC Fort Worth Christian game, very close, very close. It was, what was it, 35-28 going into the fourth quarter. And then Fort Worth Christian goes and ties it up, and it's 35-35. You're like, holy cow, Fort Worth Christian could win this. But then DC, like they always do, then go score. And then afterwards get a fumble, an interception, and a pick 6 to go up 4 scores. When DC is hot and they're on, it's hard to beat that team. And you saw it in that fourth quarter. Basically how it is. When DC's on, they're on. And when they're not, you have a shot to stay close. And I think that's going to be the recipe for SES to even have a shot in this game. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, give it up to Fort Worth Christian for, starting so bad, being real, and then coming back, getting healthy, and overcoming all that adversity to go in and make it to the second round of the playoffs. So shout out to them for doing that. I mean, if you told me that week 4, I would have been like, you're out of your mind. So shout out to them going second in district and then going second round. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I got to add, Fort Worth Christian had one of the greatest turnarounds I've ever seen in a single season. So I literally just had to put that in there. That was a fantastic 180 on their part.
Absolutely. Ryan, you have anything else, or you want to keep going?
I'm going to say this real quick. If you did not watch that game and you looked at the final score, you would think that we're crazy for thinking like you would think we're crazy for saying that the game was closer than it was. Guys, I'm telling you right now, this final score is not a representation. Fort Worth put an all-out effort on the field, and I think that it's just so important to realize that, like, the final score, yes, there was a lot of turnovers at the end, but they were just chucking up the ball to try to get it down the field, and they were throwing interceptions, and they were just waiting super long in the pocket to throw the ball and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's stuff that Trevor Andrews had to do in order to try and win the game. So there was less time on the clock and all that kind of stuff. This is not the game that the final score is not the game that happened. That game was close, and I have so much, guys. Look, lost to Cypress Christian, lost to Bishop Lynch, lost to ESD, lost to Brook Hill, lost to Dallas Christian. And finally, they get a win against us. It's their first win in the season. That was their first win. They went 0-5, and they went 0-5. October 2nd, they were 0-5. Then they came back and did that. I am telling you right now, this team did more than we would have ever thought back on October 2nd, and that's just something to say.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been through a lot of, coaching changes, administration changes over there at Fort Worth Christian. So they've had to fight through a lot of adversity, and that injuries galore on this season was just another thing they had to fight. And you see Fort Worth Christian in the right direction for next year. And yes, it's gonna be more difficult for them next year, but they still have some guys coming back. Jacob Tremble is a junior right now, so you have him for another year. Hogan Nelson looks like a good quarterback for the future. There's a lot of other guys that are, young guys that could be the future, but you lose some seniors. But I don't know why I said that again, but it's a bright future for Fort Worth Christian, kind of like steadily maybe get back to where they were. So we'll see how it goes for the next couple of years. I don't think this is a 1-year fix of like, boom, they're back to being perennial state champions like they were a couple of years ago. But I think you could see the progression of like, hey, this team has hope for the next couple of years. So yeah, I wanted to say that. Going into the next game, you have Fort Worth All Saints versus Central Catholic in San Antonio. I mean, the curse of the South schools is finally being with Central Catholic beating Fort Worth All Saints. I think it was like they were 0-6 in playoffs last year, and Central Catholic finally is the one to beat a North school. The Central Catholic team was dominant from the get-go and was all night. And it starts with that offensive line led by DeAndre Marshall and Ben Rios, the UTSA commits, and also Ben Rios, the under Adidas All-American. I wanted to point that out because that's big time for him. But they were stellar all night, and they just popped that All Saints defensive line in the mouth and just let them do it. And they went to work, and it allowed senior Jonah Dunlap to go off, and he first of all he doesn't go down easily. He does not get tackled easily. And he had 127 yards with 24 carries with the score. And that was their main game. We'll run the ball for 3-4 yards, make you focus on the run, and then that it allows Silas Gomez to go to work. Silas Gomez went off for 18 of 22. 18 of 22. I want you to remember that. That's only 4 passes messed up. 233 yards and 2 touchdowns, with both going to senior Jackson Deason, who had 146 yards receiving on 7 receptions. Silas also then had 69 yards rushing and a score on 16 carries. I remember I was talking about it with one of my friends. The QB run in high school football this year has been so effective, and Silas Gomez is just a master at it. His composure and just poise in the pocket is just unreal. And honestly, he made this game cemented himself. You know, you have Drew Dickey in that conversation, and River Rodriguez in that conversation, but I might go to bat for him being the best private school quarterback in TAPS in private school. He is a dog, man. You don't see a lot of guys often who are just so comfortable and composed in the pocket the way he is. And that's what's scary, is that he doesn't it made it one score. All Saints made it a 1-score game one time with Brent Alfinger doing everything he can. And I want to shout him out. You know, he just got a preferred walk on to SMU, which I think will be a great spot for him if he chooses that. But yeah, I just want to give him that because he's been dominant all year. We've said his name hundreds of times, and he's been a great player for that All Saints team. So shout out to him. But Silas Gomez is a dog, man. I think he's committed to Army, but I think that's a steal. I think that's a steal for Army. And I also want to talk about the defensive side of the ball. Caleb Harrison, the junior, caused 2 fumbles and recovered both, while having 8 total tackles and 2 tackles for loss, and also returning one of those fumbles for a touchdown. That kind of put the game back to 2 scores late in the 4th. Talking about All Saints, Brandon Alfinger already mentioned. And then the 2 scores by the elite wide receiver, Chris Paul Freeman, to keep him in the game at all. Look, All Saints just kind of got outplayed and outcoached this entire game. It's very intriguing to see how good the San Antonio Central Catholic team is. And they have a great opponent in Midland Christian this week, who All Saints ended up beating earlier in the season. So we'll see how it goes. But that's my analysis.
That'll be super interesting. I am very, very excited for this Central Dadgummit, who do they play? The Central Midland game.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be, well, we're going to preview it, so I'm not going to give anything away, but I'm very, very excited for it. We also got to do a very, very quick discussion of how many upsets there were this last week. I mean, St. Thomas losing to Lynch in that double overtime barn burner. Nolan falls to Midland, which if you would have told me that would have happened like week 4, I would have laughed in your face. But I'll say later, this Midland team has really impressed me as of late. They really, really are getting it done. And I mean, there's a lot of external factors weighing down on Nolan. That's not to take away anything for what Midland has done. Grace Prep also fell to Trinity Christian of Lubbock, which was probably the biggest surprise for me out of these 3. I thought Grace Prep was going to go undefeated and just run out the rest of this schedule. But Trinity Christian had some other plans. But, you know, also you got to shout out Grace Prep. I mean, they had a fantastic season up to this point, and you can't take anything away from them. They had a great season. I know it ended earlier than they thought it would, but they have been a fantastic team up to this point. So now we have actually a list of all of the state championship winners and TAPS, and we wanted to shout those out really quick. Ryan, do you want to go through all of the winners from recently in the TAPS state championships?
Yeah, so just like we did for SBC, y'all, I think it's important that we do all this. Like I say, always, if you're new, we go through everything. This is the Texas Private School Podcast, and we're not just football. So sometimes you do want to give some love to some other sports. So TAPS volleyball, field hockey, cross country champions, cross country. It was on November 1st, and the 6A girls team win was Antonian Prep. The 6A boys team win was Central Catholic. The 5A girls team was Fort Worth Southwest Christian. The 5A boys team was San Antonio TMI. The 4A girls team was Legacy Prep, and the 4A boys team was Dallas Covenant. field hockey, which if you didn't know what happened in TAPS, it happens in TAPS. It was on October 29th, and the winner was Houston St. Agnes. Agnes, I don't know if I said that
Agnes.
right. Agnes Academy. So sorry. And then the runner-up was Fort Worth All Saints, and that was October 29th, if I didn't say that. And then volleyball just happened this weekend, which is what we were waiting for. And the 6A champion was 6A St. Agnes Academy, and then 5A Fort Bend Christian Academy, and 4A John Paul II Catholic from Shirts, if I said that right. But yeah, there you go. There's all your TAPS state champions, and I think we did well. I think we hit every single SBC and every single TAPS for the fall. So very happy that we get to announce all those champions.
No,
Yeah.
you have to give a very go on.
I want to say something because, we talked about TAPS a while back when we were talking about realignment, and, that's such a big issue, right? Because we always think about it from the football perspective, right? Of, oh, well, these teams should be able to compete with the higher ups and all that. But for schools like the teams that move down from D1 to D2, a lot of those schools need it also for the other sports, like we just mentioned, because it's not just a school just for football. And, sometimes I over exaggerate or all that when it's about, just about the football perspective, which is a big issue, but you have to look at this also as for the other schools. And, a lot of the other schools for girls sports, stuff like that, it's a big issue being able to move down and then compete at that right level. So sometimes TAPS gets it right. And some of these reasons might be the reasons why some of these schools move down. So I just wanted to say that, but congratulations to all these schools. Great job for all of them. So.
No, for sure. You got to give a very genuine congratulations to all these schools. I mean, winning a state championship is a feeling like no other, and I would have killed to have that when I was in school. Runner up 3 times. I'm still not over it. However, that's all that we have for that. And now we transition into our 5 games of the week for the semifinal round. The first being Fort Bend Christian versus Houston Second Baptist, the rematch of the district championship. These two teams, like I just mentioned, have already met, in which Fort Bend etched out a 27-24 win to secure a district title. After losing 3 straight in weeks 3 through 5, Fort Bend has been lights out and hasn't lost a single game, advancing all the way to the state semis. Second Baptist shocked all of TAPS last week by knocking off state favorite Austin Regents. The key matchup, again, like I mentioned, the first time these teams played. It's the Houston Second Baptist defensive scheme versus the best unit in all of TAPS, the Fort Bend Christian air attack. I talked to Coach Pirtle actually for like 20 minutes at the halftime of the St. Michael's Fort Bend game. And I'm obviously not going to release anything he told me. It's not like he told me anything specific they're going to do, but I think Second Baptist is going to come into this game with a very, very solid game plan. And I really want to pick them. But if I was a betting man, I would have made a lot of money on Fort Bend this year. And I know our friend Greg Tepper doesn't like it when we equate sports betting and high school sports, but good Lord, this team would be a cash cow if you could. I mean, listen, man, I've picked Fort Bend this far, and I feel like it would just be cheating on them if I didn't at this point. There is a large part of me, and I mean the rational part of my brain wants me to take Second Baptist here because I feel like they're not going to get trounced again. I can't do it. I have to take Fort Bend, and I am on my knees praying that one of you takes Second Baptist so we don't get memed to death on Twitter if we all take Fort Bend and Second Baptist wins. Walker, who are you going to take in this matchup?
Well, I want to make you sad a little bit because I'm also going to take Fort Bend here. I mean, Fort Bend's offense has been phenomenal as of late, and you have to give credit to that. No team has been able to stop it, and even Second Baptist, being real, they weren't able to stop it. And because of that, I know they might have a better game plan to going into this, and they're going to have that revenge on it. But I trust Coach Black over there. He's going to get in their mindset of like, hey, that revenge that, Second Baptist is talking about, we're going to snuff that out and not let them even think of it. So give me Fort Bend here.
Ryan, for the love of all things good and holy, please take Second Baptist.
You already heard what I was gonna say.
I'm
You already heard it earlier.
I'm gonna jump out of my window.
You already heard it earlier.
We're screwed.
Fort Bend Christian. Fort Bend Christian is an outstanding team, and there's no going on about like the thing. I mean, yes, betting is horrible, but jeez, you would make a lot of cash off Fort Bend Christian. I'm talking y'all that they will see DC, or Southwest Christian in the championship. I don't know what I'm picking there yet, but Fort Bend Christian will be that spot in the state championship. So that's what I gotta say. That's what I'm saying right now. Fort Bend Christian has their spot in the championship, and I'm gonna stick to it. That Regions would have been a better game. Sorry, Regions would have been a better game.
Well, Coach Pirtle, there's your bulletin board material. We gave it to you on a silver platter, so go and take it and run with it. Because, good God, if they win, our mentions are going to be ruined for a week. Next game. Parish Episcopal versus Bishop Lynch. After going 2-5 in district, Lynch shocked the world last week with a 52-50 overtime, I think double overtime win against Houston St. Thomas. Like we said before, Isaiah Schmidtke is an absolute workhorse and can keep Lynch in almost any game, maybe except this one. I love Lynch, don't get me wrong, but this Parish team is hands down the best team in the state, in my opinion. I think Sawyer Anderson is developing scary fast, and Andrew Paul has no regard for human life when this man runs the football. You throw Blake Youngblood in the mix, too, and you have an offense that runs like a well-oiled machine. I just think their defense as well will be much stouter than St. Thomas's, and I don't think you're going to find anyone that disagrees with me on that. I think the Parish defense, even though I've just spent time raving about their offense, I think the Parish defense is what is the X factor in this game. I think it's going to be significantly better than most teams that Lynch has faced up to this point. And I think it's going to be very difficult for Schmidtke and the rest of that offense to move the ball on. Give me Parish in this game. Walker, your thoughts on Parish versus Lynch?
For this game, give me Parish in this one. I don't think it will be too close. I think Parish dominates like they did in the season. I don't know what the score was in that game, but let me look. During the season, it was 49-13 win for Parish. Will probably be around the same thing this week. Dominant win for Parish, I think, here. But hey, give credit to Bishop Lynch. No one would have thought they were going to be here at the start of the season. What were they? They went. What did they go during this year? They went 5-7 this year. I mean, and they went to the state semis. So shout out to them. That's a big win for St. Thomas. And that just shows that, Coach Moats over there, the head coach over there for Bishop Lynch, is turning that program in the right direction. And, they were the team that were in the state championship a couple years ago, not that long ago, but you could see now they're in the right direction. They have a lot of talented dudes over there at Bishop Lynch, but I think Parish gets the job done here.
I'd have to agree with you, and I'm going to wager that Ryan probably agrees with you as well. Ryan, your thoughts on Lynch versus Parish?
Give me Bishop Lynch by 40.
All right, say it with a straight face.
No. Parish Episcopal. I think Parish. But no, like we said, Lynch had a great season this season, and it's just like it's just saying, like, when it comes down to it, the North is just a little bit better than the South. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit better than the South. So a team that plays in the North like Lynch can still go out and beat some of the top teams like, Houston St. Thomas, right? Like, we thought Houston St. Thomas was some dogs, and they were some dogs this year, but who they were playing is not the same team that Bishop Lynch was playing. Bishop Lynch was playing these top teams all year long, which is why, they ended up getting to this position. But Parish will still have their number again the second time, in my opinion.
I'd have to agree there. I don't think you're going to find many people that disagree with that. So with that, we transition into the next game, which is Dallas Christian versus Southwest Christian. And it would be kind of a disgrace to let anyone intro this except Walker, considering he is an alumni of one of the schools. So Walker, go ahead and give us a rundown of what we should expect in this game.
DC versus Southwest Christian is a fantastic game, and I'm so excited for this. I will be in attendance there at Mesquite Memorial Stadium. DC got the good end of the flip of the coin and got them close to home, 10 minutes away from home. So shout out to that. But yeah, this is the game that decides how good this Southwest Christian program is. When I talked to Tyson Flowers after the last defeat, when it was a big time defeat for DC over SES in the semis last year, he said, we will be here right back here next year. And that's where he is again. He spoke it into existence, and he is here again today. Like I said earlier in the episode, if DC makes the mistakes that they always do, and you keep them close in this game, you have a shot. Fort Worth Christian always had a shot against DC, but DC just found a way to pull away at the end always. And that's probably how they always win. SES needs to play the most physical game of their life, hit them in the mouth, and keep running the ball all day long. Antoine Polk needs to be that bigger back that he is and just run over people, because the things we've had in the past is we've never really had the guys to kind of compete with the big dudes that they've had over there at DC. But the thing about it is Antoine Polk is the biggest back we've had in a very long time. He doesn't go down easy. They have John Tappan on the offensive line, Court Comer, Hunter Sage, Sebastian. All those guys are dominant offensive linemen. You have Tyson Flowers, and he is going to give everything he's got for this team. I'm going to say it's going to be a close one, because SES is going to have to run the ball so much. It's going to be not that long of a game, and it's going to be a close game. But, last year I picked DC, and, they won because I think I just didn't have faith in my dudes. And, I'm back home in the 817, back home in Fort Worth, the hometown. And, I was coming through my house, seeing all the old photos, and I found something that just gave me hope. This is my helmet from 5th grade or something like that. And I saw this somewhere in my house, and I said, that is my eagle. That is the pride of Southwest Christian. Give me SES in this game. I believe in my Eagles. Go Eagles. Tyson, give this to me. Let's go. Let's go. Give me Eagles. You can't hide that Eagle pride. You can't hide that Eagle pride with me today. So give me Southwest Christian.
Inject it directly into my veins. I love every aspect of it. I was scrolling through because Texas Private School Football Guy has he put up polls basically gauging interest to see who thought what team was going to win. As for DC Southwest, 80% picked DC. And in the comments, basically the consensus opinion is DC's defense is going to be the deciding factor here. You've heard me go on and on about DC over the past couple of years, especially when we started last year, using adjectives such as a rolling ball of chainsaws, among other things, to describe them. So, with that being said, I don't know if this is the same team that it was last year. Don't get me wrong. DC is fantastic. They always have been. Wheeler coaches a great program down there, and as always, they have dogs. You've got Makeda, Grubbs, Jackson Berry at running back, who has been fantastic. Or no. Jackson Berry's a linebacker. Jaleel Brown a running back?
Yes.
Yeah, Jaleel Brown. Yeah. But Jackson Berry at running back would be a very scary sight. Don't get me wrong. However, I think this is the year Southwest gets past DC. I like Tyson Flowers. I like Antoine Polk too much. I don't think that there is that significant of a gap any longer between DC and the rest of the North. I think Fort Worth exposed that a little bit. And I know DC pulled away late, but Fort Worth kept that close. I really, really think this could be the year Southwest upsets DC. Give me the Eagles in a close one. Ryan, I think this will be the first time we ever all pick against DC if you choose to do so. So I'm very interested to see what the pick is here.
Guys, y'all, this is the game of the week, in my opinion. You want a game of the week, this is the game of the week. This is a game that I think I would have been like wanting to see all year long, everything. This is a Dallas Christian team who is strong. But here's what I got to tell you. Here's we're going to go down the line here, and I'm going to tell you some things about Dallas Christian. Dallas Christian had a win on September 24th against Fort Bend Christian. They won 35-13. They have close games with Liberty Christian in 7-6 back on September 10th, and they have a 20-point loss to TCA. They also have a win against 6A powerhouse. Not really, but they're still pretty good. Bishop Lynch. And honestly, the rest of these games in their district are just kind of like, games where they blow out every single team. DC is a powerful team. Please do not get that wrong.
Oh, no.
And Southwest Christian has a lot of dogs this year. They have beaten Grapevine Faith twice this year. Their losses also only come to TCA. And then the ESD, which is the runner-up for SVC. I'm giving you a lot right here. I'm giving you a lot. I'm telling you, a team that beat My Legacy Eagles 57-12. Southwest Christian is going to lose to Dallas Christian. I have Dallas Christian here. Jaleel Brown is going to run a show, and I think that you're going to have some of these Southwest Christian fans who may be, and some students who may still be on Thanksgiving break. This is going to be kind of crazy to talk about. I'm telling you, it's kind of crazy to see, but I think Dallas Christian is going to realize it's right next to us. We don't have to make a 40-minute drive in the cold, 50-minute drive in the cold. We can just head over to the stadium, head back to our house. We're right there. We can go cheer on our Eagles. We feel like we're at home at Mesquite. We have to hold down Mesquite. I have Dallas Christian over Southwest Christian.
I'm honestly not mad at that. I really like you hedging our bets for the podcast's sake. DC has one of the more raucous fan bases that we interact with, and God forbid that we triple pick against them and get mean to absolute death like we had the past few weeks. But I do think that'll be a great game. It is the game of the week. If it's not Fort Bend Second Baptist, I think it's going to be fantastic. Walker.
I just wanted to say, you talked about that cold bus ride over. Eagles are natural in, cold weather situations. We fight like Eagles, and I think the cold does not bother us. So we're unfazed. We're ready to go. They've been tattling this game since literally the last game where they lost against DC. So I'm excited for these guys. Wish the best for them. Go shock the world, guys. Proud of y'all.
It's going to be a very interesting environment come that game. However, that's all we'll say about it. Now we transition into Central Catholic versus Midland. God dang it. Versus Midland Christian. Midland also had a tremendous upset of Nolan Catholic this past week, disproving a lot of doubters and opening the eyes of the skeptics, of whom I definitely was one. This is a good football team. River Rodriguez is fantastic with his legs and will give this Central defense a difficult test. And I really hate to do this because I hate picking against Midland so many times in a row. And I don't want to be a Midland hater, but I love Central here. Walker got to see Silas Gomez in action last week, and we can both conclude he is one of, if not the top quarterback in his class. Plus, having guys like UTSA commits Ben Rios and DeAndre Marshall blocking for him, who, if you have not realized or see on our Twitter, they are mountains of men. They are gigantic. I would be terrified facing off against them, but they're incredibly solid. And I just think the combination of that three-headed monster is simply too much to pick against. Even with Braden Flowers being out for the rest of the year, that incredibly talented tight end for them, I want Central in a nail-biter here. I think they barely edge out Midland. And Midland, I'm sorry I picked against you so much. I really do think you have a great program. I can't pick against Central in this situation. Walker, what do you think is going to happen with Central playing Midland?
We were talking about earlier mortal locks.
Oh, sweet Lord.
And we were like, oh, well, where are we going to do it? Where are we going to do it? Are we going to even do it? And I'm going to do mine. After seeing the dominant performance by Central Catholic last week, give me my mortal lock on Central Catholic in this one. This team, I feel like, is so prepared, and I trust Silas Gomez so much after his performance last week. The moxie, the determination, the composure this kid plays with, that kid could lead any team to big things. And I trust that him. And even DeAndre Marshall and Ben Rios, the two studded guys on that offensive line, you would think, hey, you know what? They'll do their thing and then they'll leave. They'll get off their drives and then go chill. No, they'll go play defensive line too. And you don't see that a lot of your big time names willing to go and play both sides of the line. And that just shows how committed these guys are to this team. I just love this team, man. Midland has been great. Don't get me wrong. They've upset everyone. All the doubters. They've said, hey, you know what? We're that team. Don't get me wrong. They're a good team. And like you said, I think it's going to be close. But my mortal lock of the week, give me Central Catholic in this one over Midland Christian. And hey, it's in Brownwood, so it's only like a 2-hour drive for me. So I would have went if it wasn't the same day as my alma mater game. So if it was like a Friday game, I would have went. Just letting y'all know. But y'all picked it at the same exact time, so that's not my fault. So, but yeah,
that is a downside. I hate having Midland so far from us because I really do want to watch some of their games. It's just not very practical for us to get off of school and then go drive 6 hours. Plus, I've already made that bus ride of death a couple of times in my life, and I don't have good memories associated with Midland Stadium. But Ryan, do you want to do the courtesy of hedging our bets again, or are we just going to go all in on Central?
Yeah, no, Nolan Catholic is a team that ended up beating them the first time around, but it counts as a forfeit. They lost to Parish by 14, which actually isn't that bad of a loss if you think about it. And they lost to All Saints by 12. They just beat Nolan Catholic by 5, which is a good win. They beat Presswood by 6. When you go over to Central Catholic actually is undefeated at home, but they struggle on the road. They let up their most points on the road. They lost to Antonian Prep, which is an all right team, and they lost to Alamo Heights, which is another team they lost to on the road. They also usually let up a lot more points on the road, like I said, than they do at home. This game is a far drive for Central Catholic. This is going to go out of their little area. They're going to have to drive a little bit north. I don't know if they'll be completely comfortable. Guys, I am big on the travel stuff. I don't know why. I'm big on the travel stuff. I think it gets a lot in your head. And I said that about Midland earlier. Every game that I said that Midland was going to drive and they're going to and that they're used to the drives and stuff like that, I was usually right about those games where I say that they're used to the drives because they are used to the drives. The real question now is whether this Midland team is going to be able to perform right now. And coming off a Nolan Catholic win, and I saw Nolan Catholic in person this year, and I think they are a tough team. Silas Gomez is a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but y'all, I'm going against y'all again. I got Midland Christian.
I love it. I love having our bets hedged. It terrifies me going all in on one team. But no, I'm really glad that at least one of us picked Midland. I really do hate picking against them so much. I don't want them to think that we're player haters. So I'm glad we hedge our bets. I just think Central's probably going to get it done in this spot. But with the conclusion of that analysis, we now wander into the last game we will preview. Ryan, I think you are more qualified than any of us to talk and intro this game. So why don't you take it away?
Y'all, Lubbock Christian versus Lubbock, Trinity Christian Lubbock. The first time this game happened, these two boys over here decided to pick against Lubbock Christian. I had something going in my heart that I was going to pick Lubbock Christian. Lubbock Christian defeated Trinity Christian Lubbock 22-10 back on October 15th, and Lubbock Christian's only loss comes to Covenant Christian. Trinity Christian's Lubbock has 3 losses that come to 2 UIL teams, and obviously Lubbock Christian. Trinity Christian Lubbock just beat an undefeated Grace Prep, which was a huge win and probably one of the biggest wins of last week. And Lubbock Christian just beat a very strong Pantego Christian team, which was also undefeated going into the Grace Prep game. I had Lubbock Christian coming out of this corner to go into the Final Four, and I was correct. Walker and Wes had Covenant Christian coming out this corner, and Covenant lost first round. But here's what I'll say. I think that this corner was the hardest corner in all of TAP's playoffs. It had a deadly Lubbock Christian, a Pantego, a Covenant Christian, and Shelton. But Lubbock Christian crawled their way out, and I think that they can do it again. If I pick them once, I'm going to pick them again. I like this team, and I really think they're strong. However, I do want to talk about this guy. I didn't get to say it earlier. Can y'all believe these undefeated Grace Prep and Pantego, the teams that we thought were going to be some dogs in the playoffs, are both out now to Lubbock teams? Keep that in mind. I think Lubbock is strong. I think the winner of this game wins the championship. There's no doubt in my mind that the winner of this doesn't win the championship. They had to beat the toughest teams in Division 3 to get there, so I definitely believe that they are the toughest teams in Division 3. I have Lubbock Christian. I wish I had my hat. I didn't bring it on the plane, so I don't have it with me. But I have Lubbock Christian here, and I have Lubbock Christian in a close one. It won't be a 12-point win like last time. I'm really going to tell you, if I had to put a spread on it, I'm only putting a 2.5 or a 3.5 spread on it. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be close. It's going to be a very close game, and it's going to be the battle of Lubbock once again.
There's nothing I enjoy more than putting spreads on high school TAPS football games. There's just something so fun about it to me. But in all seriousness, it cannot go without saying that Trinity Christian out of Lubbock was the team that knocked off Grace Prep. I'm pretty sure probably all of our favorites to win state in D3, which is, just a heck of a win for Trinity Christian. I just, usually when I go with premonitions, they fail me, but I have a good feeling about this one. I think Lubbock Christian wins again. I really do. I think they're very talented. I think it's almost a coin flip stats wise. And I do hold a lot of weight in that previous head to head where Lubbock beat them by 10. I think, or 12, sorry. I think they get it done again. I don't really know. I can't really quantify why I do it. It's definitely a qualitative feeling, but I think Lubbock gets it done again. And I'm going to trust Ryan because he's more the Lubbock Christian expert on the podcast. So I'm going to tail Ryan and take Lubbock Christian as well. So I'm basically, if I get this wrong, it's your fault. So
yeah, I know. Somehow the Dallas kid's a Lubbock kid now. I don't know how that works out, but I guess I'm from Lubbock.
I'm shifting blame to you if I lose, but on the record, give me Lubbock Christian. I like them to win and advance here. Walker, round us out for the two Lubbock schools.
I guess Stillwater is close to Lubbock, so that's how it works.
I don't know if that's how that works on the map. I don't know. How that works. Okay.
Anyways, you know what? I could be the Lubbock Christian hater here, but I'm gonna go TCS Lubbock here. I think they're coming off a big win against Grace Prep, and since Lubbock Christian, right? They've won 5 straight games, just back to back, and that's a accomplishment in itself. And you got to give credit to that. Same to Lubbock Christian as well, but I don't know. I have a feeling, maybe it's because, I don't all pick Lubbock Christian. I don't know if that's maybe it, I don't want to get memed to death if we're all the same thing, but yeah, give me TCS Lubbock in this one. I have a faith for them. I remember watching that one stud running back they have over there, the 6'4" monster. I forget his name on the top of my head, but yeah, give me TCS Lubbock in this one. I could be definitely wrong, but I have a feeling, and it's the gut feeling that I think TCS is going to upset this one. So
there's nothing that satisfies me more than us hedging our bets and not all picking the same thing, because there's so much less of a possibility for us to get absolutely destroyed on Twitter. But with the conclusion of that is actually all the information that we have to talk about this episode. One thing I do want to tease that y'all mentioned last episode, we have some very, very big plans in the making for the state championships on December 3rd and the 4th. May or may not involve some type of live stream or live show. We'll see. We're working it out, but we will be gauging interest on that to see how many people would enjoy tuning into that. But just regardless of what we do, no, we are going hard for state. We're all getting an Airbnb and we are committing to this fully. But with that teaser coming to a close, that's really all the information that we have to cover for this episode. What will probably be the longest episode to date. But as always, I am 1/3 of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott and Ryan Schroeder have fantastically, as always, been themselves. We will see you in the next episode. See you later.